He was slapped, humiliated, and thrown to the ground for laying a finger on a luxury car. But what no one knew was that the very car and everything around it once belonged to him. This is not just a story about revenge. It's about fate flipping the script in the most jaw-dropping way possible. It was a chilly Tuesday morning on the streets of Charleston, South Carolina, when Daniel Walker, a frail, unshaven man in tattered clothes, shuffled past rows of luxury cars parked outside the Marriott Hotel downtown. Daniel had once driven down this very road in a Cadillac of his own. But now, life had turned cruel. Homeless for over 5 years, he relied on leftover food from the bakery dumpsters and the rare kindness of strangers. As he stood beside a gleaming black Rolls-Royce Phantom, admiring it with misty eyes, a sharp voice pierced the air. "Back off, you filthy rat," shouted Nathaniel Crane, a billionaire hotel magnate who owned nearly half the commercial properties on that street. Daniel turned just as Nathaniel slapped him across the face, sending him stumbling into the curb. A crowd watched. Some laughed. Others filmed. None helped. But one bystander, a young law intern named Macy, saw something strange. As Daniel got up and looked at the car, his lips trembled. "That's my father's car," he whispered. Macy later approached him at a soup kitchen, intrigued. Over a paper plate of stale mashed potatoes, Daniel told her his story. Born into wealth, Daniel was the son of industrialist Charles Walker, who mysteriously died when Daniel was just 18. Within weeks, all his father's properties were transferred to Crane Enterprises under confusing legal paperwork and forged signatures. Daniel tried to fight, but a suspicious car crash left him hospitalized and erased from society. Everyone believed he was dead. Nathaniel, once an accountant under Charles, had orchestrated it all. The pieces started falling together. Macy decided to investigate. At a local archives office, she uncovered land deeds, handwritten journals, and hidden documents that pointed to Charles Walker's sudden disinheritance of all his assets right before his death, something no one could explain. Meanwhile, Daniel started recovering pieces of his old life, old neighbors who remembered him, a banker who once handled his father's trust, and a dusty key to a storage unit that had sat untouched for 20 years. Inside it, a vault filled with evidence, tapes, letters, and a last will that directly contradicted the one filed by Crane. The story was beginning to unravel, but Daniel's journey was only getting started. What he found next would not only shake Charleston's elite, but threaten to bring down the entire Crane empire. After being publicly humiliated and driven off the estate grounds, Ethan disappeared into the shadows of the city once more, but this time, he wasn't retreating out of shame. He was digging. For the next several days, Ethan slept in the back alley of a library and spent every hour of daylight inside, poring over legal documents, local records, old newspapers, and the digital archives of every real estate transaction connected to the billionaire Martin Steele. The slap had stung, but what hurt more was the clear certainty in Martin's voice. "People like you don't touch what I own." That night kept replaying in Ethan's head. But something didn't sit right. Why was the old caretaker of that property so shocked when he saw Ethan's face? Why did he whisper, "You look just like your grandfather"? With that question burning inside him, Ethan dug deeper into the past, starting with his parents. He'd always been told they died in a car crash when he was 6, and after that, his life spiraled through foster homes. But now, through the musty records of a small-town legal office, he found something stunning. The name David Lennox listed as the original owner of the property that Martin now lived on. A man who had vanished mysteriously in 1992. David Lennox was Ethan's grandfather. Even more shocking? A handwritten will, never properly filed, but scanned and stored digitally, stating that the entire estate was to be inherited by his grandson once he turned 25. Ethan was 27. Heart-pounding, he took the printout and approached the only man who might help, Liam Torres, a sharp, no-nonsense attorney who'd made his name fighting against corrupt developers. Skeptical at first, Liam read the papers, looked Ethan dead in the eye, and said, "If this is real, you don't just own a house. You might own everything Steele built around it." But before they could act, word spread. Ethan was followed. Watched. His backpack, where he kept the copy of the will, was stolen one night, but oddly, it was returned the next morning, with a small note inside. "Stop digging, or you'll end up like your grandfather." That's when Ethan realized this wasn't just about inheritance. This was a cover-up that went back decades. And someone powerful was willing to erase him to keep the truth buried. But this time, Ethan wasn't alone. Ethan's sudden disappearance sent shockwaves through the already boiling media frenzy. News anchors speculated everything from intimidation to murder, while social media turned him into a symbol of resistance against the ultra-wealthy. But behind the scenes, something far more dangerous was unfolding. Liam, now under 24/7 surveillance, received a cryptic voice message from Ethan 3 nights after his disappearance. It was only 6 seconds long, distorted, and whispered, "They took me." Steele knows. The tunnels, and then silence. Liam immediately contacted local law enforcement, but they were no help. Some of them had already been paid off by Martin Steele's empire. So Liam did what any desperate man would do. He went rogue. Following Ethan's trail, he discovered a series of underground maintenance tunnels connecting Steele's estate to the old Lennox mansion. Hidden from public records and left abandoned for years, those tunnels once served as wartime shelters. Inside, Liam found Ethan barely conscious, handcuffed to a steel pipe, bruised and dehydrated but alive. Ethan had been tortured for information, warned to retract everything and disappear forever. But now, fueled by survival and vengeance, he was done running. With photographic evidence of his captivity, audio recordings of guards speaking Steele's name, and the documents provided by the whistleblower, Ethan and Liam held an emergency press conference in front of City Hall. This time, the city listened. The FBI stepped in. An official investigation into Martin Steele's empire began. And one by one, the skeletons fell out of the closet. Not only had Martin stolen the Lennox estate through forged documents and bribery, but he'd also laundered money through shell companies, manipulated real estate markets, and, worst of all, orchestrated the disappearance of David Lennox. Ethan's grandfather, who had been poisoned and buried under the same estate now worth billions. His body, hidden for over 30 years, was finally found beneath what had become Martin's private